What's going on, my creative collective? Welcome to your creative unconscious reading for September 24th. We're going to hop right on in. I was doing just a little bit of meditating. Oh, something's in my eye. I was doing a little bit of meditating on the energy, and what came to mind was the view on this. I went on a hike, and for those of you that know, I'm in the Greenbelt area along like the Niagara Escarpment in Ontario, Canada. And I went on a hike, and you'll see the footage in the affirmations or another letter from the multiverse, multidimensional mail. um, but you'll see that footage. But it was this. The park is called Mount Nemo, and that's right, Nemo. Not as in finding, but as in something else. And so while I was up there, the winds are really strong. And what came to mind was just the expanse. You could see for miles. You could see like the CN Tower kind of poking out, which is like the topographical thing when you're that far out and you're up on the escarpment. Most people are like, where's Toronto? Right? So it's definitely a landmark because you see the CN Tower. But what I was more taken with and what came to mind while I was meditating just now is the way that you could see. It's kind of like a grayish misty day where the sun's like intermittently out. It's like, I'm here, I'm not. And it just, the way that the mist, you could see it rolling across all the farmers' fields and just the open space. And it was almost as though the sky was just like running its hands along the landscape, which was really beautiful. So it's almost like this sort of I don't want to say frivolity, but it's just this way of like this carefree way of taking in the world around you right now is quite important. So, Spirit, what messages do you have for my daily creatives? Nope, my creative unconscious collective. Let's see where this goes. Ooh, the void. There's some nice energy on that. It almost feels like emerging, I'm seeing bubbles to the surface. Like you're kind of emerging from the depths of something. It could be like a consciousness or a period of time. I saw a meme. It was a video on Instagram, and it was of a dumpster, and the side opened. You could see it slide open, and there was just a raccoon standing there watching the person filming, and it said footage of me emerging from my dark night of the soul. I was like, yeah, that's really how it is. That's what it feels like. But I don't think it's necessarily connected to a dark night per se. I think this particular void, it's almost like there's an awareness rising, consciousness rising. Like the bubbles to me don't represent necessarily oxygen or air. They can, but it's almost like there's these ways that it's like your awareness is raising. Maybe your vibration is also increasing, or the frequency at which you're attracting and thinking and seeing the world around you is shifting, right? You can see further, even if it feels like you're in a depth of some kind. Yeah. And Lovers, it's not a 6 in this one. It is 12, so which reduces to 3. So the Lovers. You know what I find really interesting too about this? I'm gonna pull another one. 3 to 1. Wow, the images. So this feels like odds, like some kind of improbable odds. And if you look closely, it looks like there's a little heart there. Maybe the odds, you felt like the odds are stacked in a specific way, not necessarily in your favor. I don't know, because I'm seeing here the shapes just look remarkably similar. Like maybe there's something that's coming to the fore here. And the Lovers card used to be, well, it still kind of is traditionally the choice card in the traditional Rider-Waite. But what I'm seeing here is this sort of patterning, like it's this spirals, right? And Maureen Saint Germain wrote about this in her book, one of them on 5D. It was Spiral Dynamics. And but I for some reason that's jumping out. But this is also about the way that this is coming across is it's almost like there's a way that you're being pulled forward, and it's like this spiral outwards, right? Like an upward spiral of grace. That's the phrasing from this particular book. I'll read one of the cards to you, but I feel like this sort of upward spiral of grace, like you're being carried by forces that are helping you, and that's thank you so much, Spirit. That's beautiful. Along the escarpment that we have turkey vultures in and around that area. They ride the thermals that are up along the cliffs. And today there was one who got really close to the lookout, and you could see so close to it. Like it just, there was so much detail. They're very interesting creatures. Definitely a nine bird if there ever was one. But this is coming across to me as like maybe it felt like there were some improbable odds, and you find something maybe more than what you were expecting or looking for. Like there's something about this that's like, this almost strikes me as like a line drawing that's starting to take shape. So there's either choices that are starting to take shape for you, or it could be a connection of some kind. Well, we'll read this here. I'm going to read the void to you. Okay. Oh, let me see if I can get that there. There we go. At the ending of every cycle and the beginning of every cycle, there's a moment of transition. It may last for any amount of time, a moment of feeling or years of deep inner work whilst feeling displaced. The transition may require patience to endure in the absence of knowing, the lack of certainty about who you are and why you are here on this planet. A void may open up between one moment of meeting with your lover and the seemingly endless stretch of time, even if it is only days that seem as though they are eternal in duration as you wait to reconnect again. Yet, if you can accept that entry into the cosmic void as preparation for your next cycle of manifestation, if you can accept that darkness is holding you with love, not unfeelingness, then you can relax and let the preparation be what it must be. Then you can be well equipped for the next steps forward on your glorious divine adventure this lifetime, meeting the beloved, whether divine or human lover, in a fresh new moment. Excited, open, and curious always. This oracle brings you guidance. There are parts of your own process unfolding that you simply cannot know about yet. It will not always be this way, but for now, it's most helpful for you to only deal with what is immediately before you. All else will be shown when the time is right. There is a growing to be done, and then the void will bring forth the next step on your path to meet you. You do not have to worry, and you do not have to search. Be present, be patient. When you can do something, do it. When you cannot, just be. Your time will soon come. If you're holding a question about a relationship, surrender it to the void and let it become what it must be according to spiritual wisdom and love. That's so interesting because this talks about relationship too. But what I really like too is it's like this birthing. Like it's almost like I'm hearing gestation. Like there could be like there's an idea that's been gestating, or I mean, you could literally be pregnant, or someone around you could be. But I also feel like this is like the birth of a new aspect of yourself. It's kind of coming across that way. Which one do you want me to use, Spirit? Okay, this is really strong. Ugh. So I'm going to use the Muse Tarot by Chris Ann. So, Spirit, what messages do you have for my creative unconscious collective? You could actually be just starting a family. This is so interesting. You could be family could be redefining for you, like or you could be coming into some kind of family, because I'm seeing this as like you on your own, and then the next person, like the person that you're coming towards or that's coming towards you, and then there's a third energy. This could be sacred partnerships. Christina Lopes talks about that in terms of that third energy that's created. So that's possibly what's happening. But I think about this too in terms of like the energy that gets created when you do something that you love, like when you do something that you adore. Like for me, I enjoy doing this, but I also love writing, right? So it's like a third energy is created, or there's a third energy that you tap into when doing that. And people are like, that's the zone. And it is to a certain extent, but there's something that gets channeled through you. And, it doesn't matter what your religious beliefs or disposition is or are. you're channeling information from something and somewhere that is not you, and you're just present to it. You behold it, and it flows through you in this beautiful way. So maybe it's a call to be in that space of allowing that wisdom and information to come forth. Interesting. Ooh, so we have the moon as the kicking off energy here. And kicking off, I don't know. Is football season starting? All I know is the hockey season is starting, and I'm so excited. Some Canadian stereotypes are true. Yeah. Very intriguing. You know what? And that's so right now, the energy that you're in right now is the moon, which kind of aligns well with this void card. Like there's something that you're either birthing or there's just it, and it's not for lack of awareness or understanding. I don't think this is something that you can comprehend. There was an Instagram post that I saw, Deepak Chopra posted it was on Instagram, and it was this Ask Deepak. And then I followed it through to the blog that he had written about it. And he talked about how there are certain signs where you just can't, like, they don't make sense. It doesn't make sense to follow these things. But when your inner guidance connects and aligns, it's like it's like you just, right? And it's not going to make sense to other people. And maybe that's what this is kind of speaking to here is this: the void isn't a place of absence. It's a place of quiet and stillness. It's a way that it's not insular either. It certainly insulates you, but it doesn't do it so that you can stay stagnant. It does it so that you can be liberated and freed by where you are, because there's something that it's like, you're just coming out of the cocoon. Like you have to let yourself be where you are for a minute. And I feel like the energy that you're embracing is the Emperor in reverse, which I feel like it's like releasing the need to be the kind of controlling side of the Emperor, where you have to know how it's going to turn out. We think of the King of Swords as the strategist in the tarot, but this is coming across as a little bit more of the aspect of controlling the details, right? Like and I feel like the details, like this is also the details. I think about the Emperor in the sort of leadership sense, in the sort of political sense of having subjects. And it's almost like you can't control every subject. Like you can't, that's just not how leadership works. And I also dislike the idea of subjects and that kind of thing. But this is to me about releasing control of the details. There's so much that you can't see, and it doesn't mean that it's going to be bad or that it's going to take you by surprise, or, I mean, pleasant surprises perhaps, but there's a certain confidence that you have to have, not just in your ability to handle things, but that Spirit's not going to send you things that are going to undo you, right? Because that's not how life works. I mean, I've gone through I'm 35, but I've seen some shit in my lifetime, and not one of it or parts of it have truly undone me. They've given me ways to put myself back together. So it's maybe seeing it in that sense or in that regard, as a source of strength for you. Maybe where you're at or what you're going through, you need to know that, like, controlling the details isn't going to give you the lesson of the place that you're at right now. Controlling the details would certainly make it feel better, but if there's something that you can make of a higher purpose of where you are, it's really important to do that, because it's I don't want to say it's like adding strings to your bow, because that's not it at all. It's really just creating a stronger foundation for you to know that you can handle anything that life throws at you, and you really can. The Moon and the Emperor. Queen of Pentacles. It's almost like the Queen of Pentacles is so interesting. This is showing up as the energy to release, like to free yourself of. And, I think it's like maybe there's a little bit too much comfort, like in needing to come out of a comfort zone and releasing that, because we can nurture ourselves and we can hold ourselves where we are, not in a way like suspended in motion, but we can do the self-care work to make things matter to us significantly and very strongly. But I think this is like going outside of your comfort zone. Maybe that's what the void period, if this is a void period, maybe that's what this is going into a place of quiet so that you can really hear, and just the void is interesting because it gets real quiet. It gets real quiet. I had about 2 years, the pandemic included, where I was kind of in that void. And then it's like everything just went back online, like, blah, 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 like everything was quite loud, seeing license plates that said stuff, hearing songs that just opened things up for me. Synchronicities, dreams were just like, and even now they've calmed down a little bit because I've asked spirit to give me less of the vivid dreams that feel like I'm awake in the dream so that I can get my sleep back on track. And then, but nonetheless, like the void is an interesting period because you have to rely on you. You have to rely a lot on you, which is kind of the emperor in the upright, right? That's that first house energy. And when you rely on you, it's almost like, I liken it to transitioning where you cannot abandon yourself anymore. You can't do that, right? That's not, the void is a space where you see things really clearly, and it's almost like a womb of sorts. So, but the beauty of that is what you think, does the baby in the womb know that it's in a womb, right? Does it know that? This is very obscure, but I remember this story very well. I'd been following Rob Bell from years ago. And one of the stories that he tells is how, and he did this, I think the videos that he used to do might still be on YouTube. They're called like Numa or something like that. And he was talking about a hike that he went on with his son, where his son was on his back and they were walking through the forest and it started to pour and thunder and it was so intense. And he knew that it would, like, he was scared, but he knew that he would do anything to keep his son safe, right? So he brought his son around to the front and just kept saying it's something to the effect of it's going to be okay, right? But his son doesn't have the conscious awareness at that point to know that it will be okay. So it's almost like what's coming through right now is just like when you're in the womb, you don't necessarily have the awareness of the birth that's coming. You just are aware of where you are, and that's all that you can know. Because if you're like, come on, spirit, get stepping, it doesn't work that way, and it doesn't truly liberate you. It might, cut some cords, it might do some superficial things, but it's all the superficiality as opposed to the depth that you might be seeking, right? So the energy of this is just coming through as in the womb, you may not know where you're going to be, but you know where you are, and that's enough because that sustains you, right? That sustains you. That's wild energy. I have never given birth. I only have a cat, which sometimes it feels like having a toddler. That's just in perpetuity. Yeah. Okay, Spirit, how does the light get in here? The Eight of Cups, and these two fell as well. So we have the Eight of Cups. I almost feel like this is like, I think about this in terms of eclipses and like how the light gets in is through an eclipse. Like, what is eclipsing your vision? I mean, most obvious interpretation. But then it's just like, what is it that when you emerge from the void or have emerged from the void or wherever you are, right? When you emerge from that, what did the darkness allow you to see in the light? Like, how does that work together? How do the shadows play differently so that you can see things differently, right? That's where this Eight of Cups comes into play for me, where it's like, it's not just about leaving something behind here. It's almost like leaving the womb, leaving a comfort zone. Maybe you've been confusing a comfort zone for a womb, where it's like, it's safe here. I'm in a void and all of this stuff. But what's actually waiting is like this, for you to give birth to yourself, and you're waiting for life to birth you into something new. But what's actually happening is you are giving birth to a part of yourself. So the signals that you might otherwise look for are kind of skewed. So you're not seeing the signals quite the same. Hi, Chicken Little. I don't know if you could hear her. That's my cat. Yeah, then to clarify that, we have the Nine of Pentacles and the Four of Pentacles. So it's almost like this, like, the Four of Pentacles in this particular deck is really interesting to me because I feel like it's like holding back for yourself, like holding back for you. Not in a sense of like the miser that is associated with the Four of Pentacles in the traditional Rider-Waite, but like a sort of cultivating your own energy to then be able to give that further, to give that outwards, right? Like this sort of like enjoyment of self, right? Enjoyment of self. And it's like that sort of cultivation of your own sense of value and worth. And I liken that quite a bit to this void energy where this is so profound. Like I do feel like there's the energy. It's like I'm all excited now for you. But there's this way that you're giving birth to something from within you. So it's like you're maybe used to the process of wings and butterflies and all of that stuff outside of you, but then there's something slightly different that's happening, and you have to lean into that. And then we have the Nine of Pentacles here, which is I think about this as like what's coming to mind. I think about this in terms of a colander, right? Like there's this energy of like a colander full of strawberries being rinsed completely and cleared and cleaned and all of that, and like it's like this delicious harvest from within, right? A lot of within energy. And the pentacles tell me, about worth and value a fair bit, but maybe that's what you've been learning in this period. Maybe that's what you've been cultivating, right? And I think the pandemic did that for a lot of us. We realized what was most important. Were it not for the pandemic, I don't know. I mean, I might have transitioned, but it was for me a situation of seeing all of the things that I had a way of working really hard, and that would quiet a lot of the fears that I had about who I am. So, being in the pandemic, there were still fears, yes, but there were ways that I couldn't escape them. I couldn't run from them. And so that was for me a lot. A lot of freedom in that. And that's what I think the Nine of Pentacles represents too. It's this full garden within, yes, but then there's also an aspect of you're seeing your worth and what's most important to you, and that's kind of propelling you forward. And again, this is about presence. This isn't about having all the answers, right? Releasing control is one of the hardest things to do when you have been the one in charge all the time, and not in charge in terms of like being bossy and all of that stuff, because that does come with some cultural accoutrement specific to women. When you say like, that's bossy, really? Right? We know this, but the way that I'm seeing this too is just like there's a way that you're kind of having to cultivate a specific kind of leadership for yourself that it doesn't rely on control, that doesn't rely on having a hand in the details, right? When I used to do activism, and I mean I still do, like you don't really leave it. I mean, especially because, as a trans person, activism who I am is an act of resistance, realistically speaking. And so where I'm going with this, though, is, when I was the chairperson of a pride organization and put on like a huge event every year, there were so many details to manage. At one point, there was like having to make sure that you're in Toronto Pride to march, organizing with other community groups for the week of Pride in the community. And then you're also looking at, the details of events to come and making, for the year, and looking at bandwidth and all of that stuff. So it's like when you have that many details that you manage, you can't just release control of them. You can't just like release control and be like, it'll figure itself out. You've got to take the action. But when it comes to personalizing that, right, when you take that professional skill and apply it to the personal, it can be really dicey because the same things that worked in one context don't necessarily work in the other. And maybe that's what part of the void right now is about. It could be. Spirit, what messages do you have for my creative? Yeah. So we have the Two of Pentacles and the Ten of Pentacles, which is a little bit about, I think this is about, this is coming back into balance on the one hand, but I see the Two of Pentacles in terms of adaptability, and it's like adapting yourself to the vision that you have of the Ten of Pentacles, because maybe there was a way that you were holding yourself outside of that Ten of Pentacles because you felt like there had to be specific things that were done before, right? But you don't show up in a Ten of Pentacles. That's aspirational, and you work towards it. That's why it's a legacy energy. It's not something that you just like you emerge into, right? It's not like that. A lot of self-compassion is what I'm hearing too. Yeah, and I feel like, so the Emperor in reverse is clarified by the Five of Swords and the Nine of Wands here. And this is telling me, honestly, this is telling me that there's a way that you've maybe felt like like having all your hands in the details was your way of protecting yourself. It was a way of protecting yourself. And I see the Nine of Pentacles as pre-Empress energy. And I tend to see the Nine of Wands as pre-Emperor energy in terms of integrating your fire and knowing how to work with it and knowing what to do with it and where to emplace it, right? But I feel like there's a way that you kind of felt like this is coming across as like defensiveness, perhaps because of feeling inadequate or an imposter syndrome. So there's like this, it's not even a boundary. It's almost like feeling like, no, I have to have my hand in the details because then it's going to allow me to appear more with it or aware and knowing what to do. But the thing is that when you're on your own journey, and this is something that I learned as, doing a lot of the community work that I have and doing the different leadership roles, is you often set the temperature. You set the temperature as a leader for where you are and how people around you are going to react. And I experienced this especially in the role that I'm in now, where I work part-time, where it's like if there's an emergency that goes on, people look to you. And, it's not about, pushing things down, but there's a way that people look to you to set the temperature for how they're going to react to what's happening, right? So it's like once you get all the details and you assemble that, then you can go and say, okay, this is how it's going to work. This is what we need to do, X, Y, and Z. You go here, I'll go here. This seems like a good plan. What do you think? Right? So it's that's the way you might lead in one way, but when it comes to yourself, you can't lead yourself that way because you are aware of the information you don't have. So it's not about posturing or anything like that to keep everyone calm in a situation. And I don't know why that's coming across, but I feel like that's kind of, in a way, it's like the essence of good leadership is not just about mobilizing people towards a cause, right? I think the Ruth Bader Ginsburg quote is like, get people to care about what you do by how you do it or something along those lines. But it's like, it's not necessarily like that. That's one aspect of leadership. Yes. Like it's mobilizing people in a specific direction. But then the other part of that is looking at how you are allowing yourself to be led in the details you don't have, right? In the void, in that void. And that's a delicious time too. That's why I think it's interesting. I think about the Queen of Pentacles in terms of releasing yourself from a comfort zone, because it is kind of uncomfortable to not know. It is kind of uncomfortable to not know because we live in a culture that prides itself on that, right? The myth of normal, the new Gabor Mate book talks about this, where, he says that we've developed a culture that hands out medals for how good you are at intellectualizing your pain and your feelings and disconnecting yourself from them. So it's not just like an individual thing. It's part of a system that needs to change, that needs to shift, right? And activists have been saying this for a long time. And I love when science and that kind of activist experience and lived experiences too come together in a way that allows for a more cohesive visioning of what's possible. So clarifying the Queen of Pentacles is an Ace of Pentacles. So I think there are going to be opportunities that come in the next little while that make you feel a little bit uncomfortable or outside of I'm seeing small fish in a big pond. So it's like you may feel like you don't have what it takes, but I would actually argue that you do. Like that's the energy that's coming across, specifically with the Queen of Pentacles, Six of Cups as well. Some potential soul family, soul bond meeting you on the path. But this is also, it's coming across as a recognition energy. Maybe it's about looking too at the past and where you've been and then seeing how that is also going to come through and like it's referential of, but not anchored in things that you've done before, right? I know that I can do specific things because of how these cups, like the things that I've done in the past, I know that I could do certain things relatively well, right? I know that I can learn specific things in a weekend if I need to, right? So it's like it's relying on past skills and strengths, but in new contexts that are going to establish some kind of foundational energy for yourself. So if you're like, where the hell am I and how did I get here, right? Like it's like a little bit of letting yourself be in that place, because there's something really rich about the outside, the bounds outside of the bounds of your comfort zone. So Eight of Cups, Four of Pentacles, Nine of Pentacles, Spirit. What messages do you have? Four of Pentacles. Shocking. This is almost like, now this is coming across as like a little bit of fear, like you're holding on for fear of, right? For fear of. But the thing to keep in mind here, let me just spread the rest of these out. Oh wow, that's the wheel was on the bottom. Some kind of unconscious energy. So I do get the feeling that there's something bigger than you right now is on your side. And it's not about, you blink and you'll miss it. Like, it's not an avocado that's going to go bad in like a day. And you're going to be like, well, shit, I wanted to eat that, right? That's not how the wheel works. That's really not how the wheel works. Avocados are delicious, by the way. As an elder millennial, I'm sure people are like, that's on toast. That's why you can't. No. But that I'm seeing that this is coming across as kind of being hesitant, and the hesitation isn't coming from it's coming from a place of fear, yes, but there's more to it than that. You've gotten used to relying on a specific aspect of your strength, and it's kind of come up in terms of a Four of Pentacles, where by holding back a little bit, that's been successful in the past, but the void is like an invitation to seeing things slightly differently with that eclipse energy too. Could be the Taurus Scorpio nodal axes that are kind of shifting and changing. Could be. And see, that's where it's like you can't see how this was on the split, the moon and the Nine of Cups. You can't see how things are going to shift and change, not just in your favor, not that broadly speaking. This is about things shifting inside of you that you may not be able to see as part of this moon energy, right? Like, it's like envisioning yourself within this 10 of Pentacles. So you're not like, well, I'm holding the vision. I'm holding the vision, right? It's allowing yourself to be in balance within the 10 of Pentacles, to see the two as part of the 10, as opposed to yourself outside of that and saying, well, I would like that one day, but that's part of you. The 10 of Pentacles is within you. So we have the Four of Pentacles in the wheel. What else, Spirit? How can you, what else do we need to know here? I'm seeing a rowboat, and the Queen of Cups just came out. Watery energy in a rowboat. Maybe it's a little bit about, and I'm hearing row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Life is but a dream. I feel like this is maybe about being a little bit easier on yourself and looking at the world with a certain fondness and seeing yourself through that lens as well. This is, as much as the Queen of Pentacles is like coming up here as like a releasing yourself from a comfort zone, I feel like this is showing up as a kind of momentum because something really matters to you. But also that the Nine of Cups that came up on the split with the moon, it's like there's something within you that it's like you're going to recognize where you are, and it's not going to be something that's going to take a great deal of effort. It's going to feel like an expanse. I went to Forks of the Credit Provincial Park recently. This was a couple weeks ago, which is weird because like the trees are changing color. I'm like, man, summer's so short. But I went there and I remember turning a corner, and this was in one of the affirmation videos that I posted, but I came around the corner and it was just this expanse that I forgot where I was. Like I could easily say, this doesn't look like it's from around here. And maybe that's what, and it's like this, all these pretenses, not about hikes and hiking and things like that, but just the moment, it's like all of that just lifted off like steam in the morning or mist in the morning that's lifting. And I feel like that's kind of this watery energy here that's like it's lifting. It's like I'm seeing it lift up because there's something about how you're understanding yourself and where you are, but also what you do and do not need to keep control of or tight grip on anymore. Because that's where I feel like the Emperor energy is like this tight grip, right? It's not, I don't want to say it's like a possessiveness, because that's it's kind of funky energy to get into, because I don't know. It doesn't feel great. And I also feel like it doesn't honor people when we get into places like that, right? Because it means you're coming from a place of fear as opposed to possibility and expansion and all of that. Of course, there's more that can inflect the reasons that that's there. So listen to them. If someone's not treating you well, are you being possessive, or are you having realistic expectations and questions about something that's unfolding, right? Don't let people gaslight you and talk you out of those things. So, right? Do not. Take it from your Aquarian friend. I will be your Aquarian friend. I have a stellium in Aquarius, and then in my houses, there's also a kind of stellium as well. So take it from me. I love freedom, but at the same time, it's never something that people should weaponize and make you feel bad for having questions about, right? So don't get into that. Just an aside. But I feel like this is possibly also moving towards Queen of Cups individual, or a place in your life, or a space, an environment, a context that's going to make you feel maybe a little bit like a little mushy, which isn't, which is not like, it's going to make you feel like mashed potatoes. It's not like that. I don't know why. Anyways, so what I think this is it's like there's a softness emerging, and maybe that's what the void did. Was it's like I'm almost seeing this now as like a rock tumbler, like a crystal tumbler, where you take amethyst and it goes into the tumbler and it comes out softer and something that someone can carry with them, right? And I feel like maybe there's an essence or part of your energy that was going through that tumbler in the void, and then that's how you're going to be able to be like held and free with other people in connections that are important to you. And maybe there's odds that it's like against specific odds that happened, but there's also a way that that's the birthing of that third energy, because those edges were maybe sharp, or there was some way that they were not in your best interest. So, wow, this is like flying out. Yeah, this is beautiful energy. I'm just going to pull Note from the Universe on Love and Connection by Mike Dooley. Spirit, what messages do you have for my creative unconscious collective? I'm seeing a balloon now, like a helium balloon floating up into the sky. But it's like a clear day, a really clear day. And it's not done, like it's like that accidental thing, but it's almost like not being upset that the balloon was released, but just watching it soar into the air. I wonder what the balloon would see. That's what's going through my head right now. What does the balloon see as it leans into its helium nature? Interesting. Interesting. There isn't a soul on the planet who doesn't crave your approval. I love that. The only difference between a friend and a foe is that you've decided where love can grow. I like that a lot. And so I think that this is really about deciding too, right? The void is a place that's difficult to make decisions within because you don't have enough information. But sometimes you don't need information. Maybe that's a way that you used to do things, or relying on different kinds of information. And in terms of craving your approval, this is really just about thinking about the ways that you've invested in relationships where approval was the thing that you were, that's how you assessed information coming in. If you're in your King of Swords, right? That's how you assess the info finding you on the path. But this is about you deciding where that energy goes, as opposed to waiting for the information to tell you what to do next. It's like you make that decision, and then the information comes to you, and then the possibility shows up, and then the path emerges. And it's like making that decision about how you want to feel. More Abraham Hicks. So good. And so but I feel like that's like a thing too, right? Like making that decision, because the details are kind of irrelevant. When you decide how you want to feel, the details are irrelevant until you make that decision about how you want to feel. And then the details become relevant. So take it from someone who's doing that work now. It's not as if you need anyone. Yeah. It's not as if you need anyone. For as long as you wish to keep them in your life, whoever they may be, understanding them as opposed to changing them. Ooh. A little bit of Emperor in reverse. For as long as you wish to keep them in your life, whoever they may be, understanding them as opposed to changing them will wildly improve the chances that they'll wish to keep you in their life. On the other hand, you're pretty much stuck with me. Oh, wow, how I love you, the universe. Yeah. And it's like assessing needs. And like when you're attached to outcomes, and this is something I struggle with, let me just manifest for myself badly. It's not something that I struggle with, but this is something that I'm kind of untangling within my own understanding and comprehension, right? So much Aquarius in my chart. So it's like comprehension for me is huge. But comprehending what is meant when people say releasing attachments to things, detach from the outcome. Because we can say detach from the outcome, but it's the importance that we place on it relative to what it will mean for our perception of self or our journey. It's the meaning that we make of those things, and then how we apply that meaning to the path and to ourselves that then births these attachments that we get to the outcome, right? Well, if I don't have this thing, then I'll look ridiculous. It'll be dumb. Like it's like those types of things where we can get attached to those specific outcomes and say, well, this is what it's going to mean. So this is why it's so important to me, right? So it's like releasing ourselves from those burdens, understanding that we didn't really come here to experience ourselves as need machines. Like we came here more to create from a place of freedom and expanse within us. Yeah. This reading is really beautiful, actually. Like I'm looking at it and just sitting in the energy, and it's quite lovely. I'm gonna leave it here. Well, okay, I'll pull one more. I mean, there's not really, this isn't really like a clarifying thing. I think the big thing here is stepping into your power and sifting through the energy, And I'm seeing this like a rinse again. It's very evocative. This is the cosmic rinse, taking you out back, and instead it's just hosing you down. Like maybe that's what the void is doing, right? Like maybe you had so much fun playing in the mud one day or whatever, like, puddle jumping or something. I don't know. And it's like now there's just this need to get that film and residue off because there's a new thing that's here in terms of a path or part of your path. Don't be afraid of where you are, though. Don't be afraid of where you are. Okay. What last message do you have for my creative unconscious collective here, Spirit? Electricity. That's it. This is where it's like, now I'm hearing this song, Firework by Katy Perry. But this is where I feel like that's you. Like this is you activating something within you that won't be changed. Like it's going to change you, but it won't leave you, is what I'm saying. And not like, let's trigger abandonment wounds and talk about it. But it's like, this is where it's like the energy is within you. And it's like you're cultivating a source of power from within you that is, you realize that like, you don't have to stand out in a thunderstorm holding up a balloon. Oh, maybe that's where that came from. You don't have to stand out in a thunderstorm holding up the balloon, waiting for the lightning to strike so that you can then harvest that energy. You have a source of that within you. And I almost see like a compass in here as well, a little bit. It could be more of a zodiacal wheel. It looks like a little bit of DNA helix, the double helix there. But it's like this could be something where there's like this activation of your energy or an activation of you, right? And this also 3 and 6 is the... One second. So much energy, it's already flying away. But 3 and 6 is 9. And that's a cycle ending, right? We have the 9 of Pentacles here, and then we have the 9 of Cups kind of pop out and go back in. But it's like cycle ending and the wildness, like rewilding yourself. Could be something to do with Clarissa Pinkola Estes, her book, Women Who Run with the Wolves. That could be something there. But I'm feeling this sort of like electricity, like this. It's like this. I'm seeing like currents around you in your energy. So it could be like I'm seeing an aura, and I'm seeing these blue electrical currents like sparking around and within the aura, as though it's like cleansing it and clearing it. But there's something about it that's changing. Like that's like something about your fundamental energy makeup is shifting, where it's like it's not new, I would say, but there's like an alchemization that's taking place. So I don't want to say look for that or anything along those lines, but I would say maybe just be aware that that's a process that's happening, right? You're birthing yourself, you're rebirthing. So that is your creative unconscious message for Saturday, September 24th. So if this resonated, please give it a like and subscribe. I'd love to have you on the channel if you're not here already. But if you are joining me from my subscriber base, thank you so much. And as always, wherever this finds you on the time-space continuum, morning, afternoon, or night, I hope it finds you very, very well, my friends. Take care.